I'm joined by Mike Day of Integra Property Services. How you doing, Mike?
I'm very well, David. Pleasure to see you.
It's nice to see you too. Mike, I've been looking at your submission, and I joked with you before that we're going to need a bigger page to fit in everything that you've done. But you have got a vast sort of wealth of experience, and looking out on a sort of 45-year track record in the property industry puts most of us to shame. We're still catching up on you, and you've not sat still. You've done many different things. If you could pick one thing that you're most proud of in your sort of professional career, I mean, and you can even pick me one thing in your personal life as well. But if you could pick one thing from both categories, what would it be?
Well, I think in business terms, the most enjoyment I've had is obviously helping people. When I was a frontline estate agent, was sort of helping people move house and whatever, and that was great. And there was obviously hundreds or maybe thousands of those. But I think overall, probably seeing a lot of the people that I've worked with, that I've brought into the industry, grow and develop. I mean, I have been in the game a long time. I like to say that I started when I was 3. It's not quite true, but I was 16. And there are now a lot of my clients who are actually guys and girls that I gave them, in many cases, their first jobs in the industry, maybe 20, 30, even 40 years ago. And I get a real buzz out of seeing that. In personal terms, any Watford victory is good, particularly if it's against Simon Wales Liverpool or beating Luton as we did this weekend. That rather dates this interview, but there we go.
Well, yeah, but that's almost like a home derby, isn't it? There,
Watford very much so.
You're quite close there. So, Mike, looking at somebody that's looking at starting out today, because I appreciate that although the nature of our industry and sort of transactional quality of it hasn't changed, because we're still doing conveyancing in almost the same way as we were sort of 50 years ago. But we have moved on, and we are starting to do and different challenges. So if you were an agent starting out today, or you were going to give advice to a young agent that is at the beginning of their property career rather than towards the end, if you could pick one piece of advice, what would it be?
Be a sponge and absorb as much information, knowledge. You'll have to go looking for it. Some of it will be given to you, but you need to go looking for it. I've spent a career on personal development, and I think people need to do more of that for themselves as well as via their organisations. But of course, we're now in a world of prop tech. As you know, I'm involved in a couple of prop tech businesses,
yes.
Cojute and Techlet, and we need to embrace modern technology without losing sight of the interpersonal stuff that, quite frankly, has been the bedrock of the industry since Adam was a boy.
Yeah, and when you're looking at, I mean, we've just now come off the back of it feels like a news cycle that has been never ending for about 4 or 5 weeks. But it's fair to say that there's a degree of instability and unrest within the global markets, local markets, the news, politics. If you're looking for bad news and fires, you can find them everywhere. And agents therefore sort of need to focus on the things within our industry that we can change. If you were to sort of look at our industry and the challenges it's facing, if you could pick one challenge that you think we should be giving more time to solving, what do you think it is?
You made mention earlier of conveyancing and how sort of antiquated it seems to remain.
Yeah.
And we have a situation now where the average transaction time is around about 23, 24 weeks, which is ludicrous. It was half that when I came in the business. It was half that 10 years ago. And so despite all the technology and whatever, we've still got this slow. And we all know that the longer a transaction takes, the more at risk it is, the more things that can happen and get in the way. You could have 3 prime ministers possibly in the lifetime of a sales transaction.
I think we've had 3 this week.
So I'm a member of the Home Buying and Selling Group, and I'm a great advocate of upfront information, material information. Some of this is going to happen through legislation probably, but getting the ball rolling earlier. And I still see the majority of agents wait to get the lawyers instructed, for example, until a sale is agreed. And we've got to start pushing to get this, going earlier. So when a house comes on the market, let's get some of that stuff started. Because if we could change the situation from 24 weeks down to, say, 13 weeks, you as an estate agent, your pipeline would turn 4 times a year instead of twice a year or 2.5 times a year. Well, what difference would that make to your bottom line? But what difference would it make to the stress levels and everything of everybody involved? So improvements in the home buying process would be the key to me.
I was talking to another key influencer the other day, a chap who I'm sure you'll know, David Newton, and I think he was also talking about the lag in the conveyancing process. And I think, one of the things that we discussed at the time was that there seems to be that sort of disconnect between the world of property auctions, where upfront information, having a pack ready, and if you turn around to a solicitor and say, look, I need you to do me an auction pack, can you get that done within a couple of weeks? They'll say, yes, it costs you that much. It'll all be done. But they don't say, they don't do that thing when you take your car in for an MOT and the mechanic goes, oh, mate, I don't know if I could do it. And it'll be 24 weeks instead. It's somehow we've not made that connection, have we?
Well, I think the sharp intake of breath is interesting, because I do think, it's not all one side or the other, but conveyancers have traditionally not been the most dynamic business people. Now, we've moved now to much bigger operations, and so some of that has changed over my career time, but it's still quite parochial, and they've got to wake up and smell the coffee. Most estate agents, not all, but most estate agents work on a sort of no move, no fee type basis, but lawyers traditionally don't. And I think we need to see some of that type of approach get more aligned. There's no doubt that the fees are too low, both in estate agency and in conveyancing. So we've got to see that rise to cover this. But I was responsible for setting up Connell's Conveyancing 20 odd years ago. And when we did so, the byproduct of having to do it was we lopped 3 weeks off the length of an average transaction. That was worth way, way more than the referral fees and everything else that we were generating. But the simple fact was, we could have both. And so can everybody else now, if they just pull together. And it's remained fairly adversarial. And we need to get away from that and become more collaborative.
I agree. I'm hoping very much that we can find the strength to do that, because I think we all just need to put our guns down and decide that we've got a mutual interest. I'm sure solicitors want to get through as many as they can as well. It would make sense to have that churning a lot quicker. We've asked you for what your favorite quote is, and you've quoted the inspirational speaker Zig Ziglar, who says you can have anything you want in life, providing you just help enough other people to achieve what they want. Is that sort of a Zen kind of karmic notion that whatever you put out good in the world ends up coming back to you? And how have you seen that in your professional career?
Well, I probably, despite my hairstyle, I'm not actually a Zen Buddhist or whatever. But the reality is, as a philosophy, a maxim, or whatever, it's something I've followed. You can't always do everything for an immediate, financial gain or whatever. You put effort into things, and it does tend to come back round. So either somebody points you in the direction of somebody else. I've got competitors in this industry like everybody else. Do you know, the vast majority of them I work with, we actually, collaborate where we can. Well, we're competitive, but we're not fighting each other and trying to stick the knife in each other's back. And we need to get, as I say, collaboration more. And I think whether that's with the public, whether it's within the suppliers industry or whatever, there's no doubt that, if I want to achieve what I want to do, I can't do it alone. And therefore I need to help other people achieve what they want to achieve. That then in turn tends to see me okay.
Finally, and this is a new question. It's just popped into my brain as we're speaking. So I'm going to throw it in there. Paying it forward, and a vast amount of people, you've dealt with a great many people. You're considered an influencer in the industry because of what you've added to our industry and your experience. who out there for you is really a big influence on your life in property?
Well, funnily enough, in terms of pure estate agency and business, he's just announced his retirement today, and that's Stephen Shipperley
I saw that, yeah.
of Connells. And Stephen, you know, I wouldn't say we're bosom buddies. We're not on each other's Christmas card list. I worked with Stephen for 12 years, and he's the only man, and here we are, that I could honestly say I think might have actually been better than me.
That's a great accolade.
Well, you know, very strong, you know, businessman. Look what he's, you know, how he's led Connells to, you know, to sort of the position they're in now. Very commercial. You know, I mean, they don't shy away from charging for things and, you know, making money left, right, and centre. But actually, you know, a switched-on guy. He turned down an opportunity to go to Oxford University to become an estate agent when he was 18, and he's still with that company and leads it today. And I must admit, if I look around, there's lots of people I admire, but he probably would be the top of the list.
Mike, that is superb. Thank you so much for your time today.
That's my pleasure, David. Thank you very much.